Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pick Up the Truth. Now, today we're going to continue with part 2 of the video on the system of money and how we were programmed to worship it. Now, I'd like to recap on what we learned from the first video, where we discovered that the Masons invented the system of money just to steal all the land and resources from every human being on Earth. Now, with the invention of IOU bonds, they were able to create paper money from thin air so they could manifest it into each of our realities. So we have no choice but to worship and survive by it, which we still do to this day. And we also discovered that the banking system that most of us use in our daily lives did not physically have enough money in circulation for everyone if most of us demanded it back for an emergency or some other reason why we would want our money back. And also equally as shocking is finding out that the same banking system uses a pyramid scheme in the very credit system that they invented to harshly judge each and every one of us with every day. And just imagine, they judge us harshly with our credit scores if we miss a couple payments. And imagine all of that judgment that they feel they can do to each and every person is based on a pyramid scheme. All crooks. And we also learn that the very money we work for is based on fictitious numbers, which makes it all worthless. And we're all working just to be slaves to the secret owners of this stupid money system they created. And we all put our faith and belief in. So, that's the recap of the first video. Now, let's continue watching this video and see what other goodies we can learn from it.
Loan or paying tax to make a payment on a bond, the portion of the payment that goes to pay off the principal extinguishes that portion of the debt. But the debt also extinguishes the currency. Currency and debt are like matter and antimatter. When they meet, they annihilate each other. If we just pay off the principal only on all the loans and bonds that exist, the entire currency supply just vanishes. So if we don't go deeper into debt every year, look what happens. The whole thing goes into a deflationary collapse under the weight of those payments. Politicians and pundits alike talk about balancing the budget, paying down the debt, and living within our means. They don't understand that that is deflationary. It is impossible to do under our current monetary system without collapsing the whole economy. This is why any talk of a debt ceiling is not only ridiculous, it's delusional. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt just to continue. And that's why politicians will always kick the can down the road and raise this so-called debt ceiling over and over again until the whole system finally collapses under its own weight. In other words, they don't want it to collapse on their watch. The founding fathers of the United States knew the dangers of central banking and fought to free themselves from this very thing. The Revolutionary War started out as a tax revolt, but now we must pay tax just to have a monetary system. Having just suffered through the hyperinflation of the continental dollar, which was printed into oblivion to finance the Revolutionary War, they understood the dangers of fiat currency and debt-based monetary systems. So to protect future generations from institutional theft and out-of-control government, they wrote into the Constitution that only gold and silver can be money for the simple fact that you can't.
Now, see, they're admitting that the Masons sold us into slavery with gold and silver, which may or may not be real. And I say that because our brother Mag pointed out that gold and silver could be manufactured. But whether it is or whether it isn't, it's not right for them to enslave us with natural things from the earth that was created for us.
And print them. Our current system is not only unconstitutional, but it robs us of the liberty and prosperity our forefathers fought and died for. We are all feeling the effects of ignoring the Constitution right now. By forcing more currency into circulation, our purchasing power is diluted. Inflation is a slow and insidious stealth tax that is simply the result of this debt-based monetary system.
I see all the things they make us want in this system. They get us caught up in the medical system. Well, there's too many things to talk about in the medical system. That's for another video. But also the gas. They get us with the gas every day. That's a daily thing with gas. And food as well. They get you with food that's not natural, and most of it's chemical based. And your electricity.
This system empowers and benefits those who create the currency and receive it first, as they get to spend it into circulation before it has an effect on the economy. They're stealing purchasing power from you and transferring it to the banks and the government every hour of every day because of this false monetary system. And it's not like the people at the top don't know this. To quote the Federal Reserve, the decrease in purchasing power incurred by the holders of money due to inflation imparts gains to the issuers of money. This is a fraud. It is a pyramid scheme, it is a Ponzi scheme, it's a scam, and it's a lie. Our entire monetary system is nothing but a form of legalized theft. But here's the biggest con job of them all. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It has stockholders. There is no federal agency that has stockholders. What's a stockholder? A share of stock represents a percentage of ownership in a corporation. So the stockholders are the owners of that corporation. Therefore, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation with owners. And you can see it for yourself if you go to the Federal Reserve's website, and it will say the stockholders receive an annual dividend of 6%. Now, we know that the stock in the Federal Reserve was originally issued to the largest banks in the United States. But because of mergers and acquisitions through the years, you can't actually trace who owns the stock in the Federal Reserve. That's a very closely guarded secret. My guess would be that the owners are those primary dealers, the banks that get to make a profit by selling part of our national debt, those bonds, to the Federal Reserve.
We know who the owners are. The owners are the Masonic ones that designed and run this system.
Who buys them with a check from nothing. Then we pay tax to pay the principal and the interest on those bonds so that the Federal Reserve can pay the banks a 6% dividend. Don't be alarmed if you don't quite comprehend the deception of this system at first glance. Very few people do. It is purposely complex. The economist John Maynard Keynes once wrote, "By this means, government may secretly and unobserved confiscate the wealth of the people, and not one man in a million will detect the theft." I believe.
Now, we have to ask ourselves, why did the Masonic ones design this system of control to enslave us in? Well, simply put, they just wanted to control the entire earth and all of creation, including the people. But at that time, they knew that the natural order of creation was still being followed on the earth, which means that mankind was still enjoying the free will and freedom that most plants and animals still enjoy today. So they had to invent the system of time to take away our natural free will, and they had to invent the system of money to enslave and control us with. And part of their control over us was the faith and belief in the worthless money they paid us with, and they still do pay us with, to build the systems that control us to this very day. I mean, every building in every town, city, state, and nation are all part of the control that they have over us. Now everything around us is coded in Masonic signs and symbols, which means that it's obvious that the Masonic ones designed all the buildings that they forced each and every one of us to build. Well, not each of us, but most of us. Even most of the homes that we live in are in the shape of the pyramids they designed so we can worship them. Basically, the Masonic ones took humanity out of the truth in creation so we can build their system of evil that they tricked us into living in, so we can be their slaves and run the very system that keeps us slaves. So they never have to work a day in their lives, and they can continue to live off the backs of everyone with the lavish, evil lifestyles. This is crazy.
That presented correctly, anyone can understand this system, regardless of how complex it is. So let's do a recap and break it down even more. The way the system works is that, step 1, the government creates glorified IOUs. These bonds increase our national debt and put the public on the hook to pay it back. Step 2, IOUs are swapped to create currency. The Treasury sells the bonds to the banks. The banks then turn around and sell our national debt at a profit to the Federal Reserve, which they probably own. The Federal Reserve then opens its checkbook that doesn't have a penny in it and buys those IOUs with IOUs that it writes, checks, on a checking account that has a zero balance. Then they give those checks to the banks and currency just springs into existence, and then the whole process repeats. This results in a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury, which is really just a supply of numbers. The Treasury then deposits the numbers in the various branches of the government, and we get to step 3. The government spends the numbers on promises, public works, social programs, and war. Then the government employees, contractors, and soldiers deposit their pay into the banks, and we get to step 4. Where the banks multiply the numbers by magically inventing more IOUs through fractional reserve lending, where they steal a portion of everyone's deposit and lend it out. That currency gets redeposited, and then a portion is stolen again. And the process repeats over and over, magnifying the currency supply exponentially. Then we work for some of those numbers, which brings us to step 5, where our numbers are taxed. We pay tax to the IRS, who then turns our numbers over to the Treasury, so the Treasury can pay the principal plus the interest on bonds that were purchased by the Federal Reserve with a check from nothing. Then we get to step 6, the debt ceiling delusion. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt and will eventually collapse under its own weight because politicians always kick the can down the road. They don't want it to collapse on their watch. And finally, step 7, the secret owners take their cut. The world's largest banks own the Federal Reserve. Those banks make a profit selling our national debt to the Fed. They make a profit when the Fed pays them interest on the reserves held at the Fed, and the Fed pays them a 6% dividend on their ownership of the Fed. This system is fundamentally evil. It funnels wealth from the working population to the government and the banking sector. It is the cause of the artificial booms and busts of modern economies, and it causes great disparity of wealth between the rich and the working class. And it is only possible because we no longer use real money, we use currency. But worst of all, it is a form of enslavement. Bond is the root word of bondage. Whenever a government issues a bond, it is a promise to make us pay tax in the future. Nobody asked you if you wanted to pay tax today for the prosperity we all enjoyed in the last century. Nobody is asking our children if they want to work hard in the future to pay for the prosperity we're enjoying now. George Washington once wrote to James Madison, "No generation has the right to contract debts greater than can be paid off during the course of its own existence." By stealing prosperity from tomorrow so we can spend it today, we enslave ourselves and future generations. Now, this all sounds pretty bad, but there is great hope, for you are the greatest threat to this false monetary system. This system relies on the public being ignorant of its workings. Please share this knowledge with everyone you know, because an informed public that fully understands the system can build a better future for generations to come. And now I leave you with this quote, widely attributed to a former director of the Bank of England. "The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banking was conceived in inequity and born in sin. Bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create money and control credit, and with the flick of a pen, they will create enough money to buy it back again. But if you want to continue as the slaves of bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, let them continue to create money and to control credit." This is the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C. It's located on Constitution Street, and that is just as much of a joke as the New York Fed being located on Liberty Street. Both of them are unconstitutional, both of them limit our liberty, and they transfer wealth away from us every second of every day to the Federal Reserve, to the government, and to the banking sector. You are now among the 1 in a million who can detect the theft of your prosperity. So the big question is, what can you do about it? 1. Watch this video until you can describe and teach it to others. Those who understand this system can make preparations for its unavoidable collapse and protect themselves. History shows that those who don't will probably be wiped out. 2. Share this video with everyone, especially those you care about. All it takes is a mouse click or two to get this message in front of millions. Post this video on Facebook, tweet it, email it to loved ones. Please share it wherever you can. 3. Join the conversation. The current world monetary system is based on a 300-year-old design meant to enrich a few at the expense of the many. There must be a better way. At hiddensecretsofmoney.com, we've created an open-source platform for the design and development of a new world monetary system. We're calling on every economist, every student, every college, every bright mind, and...
Now, I am going to use my discernment and truth. Now, watching this video from this gentleman, I'm gonna point out that he has proven himself with his signs and symbols and Freemasonry that he can't be trusted. And I've noticed some things in this video that one big thing he is instilling in people is he's instilling fear into everybody's soul of the collapse of the economy that they're in. And he's pushing the fear on everyone. And he's asking people to spread this fear. And trust me, this video that I'm using as a teaching tool has quite a few million views. So yeah, it's being spread, and the fear is being spread that he's wanting to spread. Now, the reason why they want to spread fear and the reason why they're pretending to get you involved is because they're eventually going to try to push everyone into a universal basic income where they give everybody a certain amount of money just above the poverty line, and you won't have to work for it if you choose not to. They're just now discovering that people are waking up to the system of control they're in. They're not fully waking up like what we teach in this video, but they're waking up to something's very wrong. And they're going to be pushing this universal basic income on everybody, and it's going to end up controlling people worse than the money that they give us now to control us. So we have to be careful what they try to do and the reasons they try to do it. And with truth, we can stay ahead and teach each other. So let's continue.
Anyone who cares to join the discussion. In educating ourselves and each other, we can prevent the further loss of our freedoms and maybe, just maybe, win some of them back.
Yeah, we have to understand that there's a lot of truth in this video, but the fear of the economy collapsing is not one of them, because they control the economy. They control the economy with the money system they invented that's worthless. There's no value in it. The only value is how much faith you put in it. Same as credit. They invent all these systems to control us, and they control those systems. They would never let them fail. They would only give you the deception that they're going to fail because they control it. And they're going to try to push us and push us and push us into a more controlling situation. We need to be going more in the direction of creation. We need to start putting our faith in the people. I know most people are still asleep, and we were too. So, but that doesn't take the fact away that all the people are still a part of creation. We still have to have faith in each other, even through these tough times. And put your faith in the plants. I know it sounds strange. Put your faith in the plants. Put your faith in the animals. Put your faith in the earth. Put them back in where they belong. Now, I know all of this truth sounds devastating. I mean, who wouldn't be devastated to find out that they've been controlled by time? They're stuck in a system that somebody invented to control them with time. Who wouldn't be devastated to find that out? Well, don't be devastated. I mean, we've been living in it all our lives. We were born into it. We don't give it a second thought, but now we know what it really is. But knowing what it really is gives us the power. Gives us the power over it. We can start to have power over the system that controls us. The same with money. We can have we can start to have power over the money. Once we know it was invented, once we know it's fictitious, we can have power over it. It doesn't have to control us like it used to. We don't have to worship it like we used to. Just like just like the time. I know everybody's controlled by time when they go to work. But what we can start doing is try not to be controlled by time in our personal lives. We can cut that out and start to do more spontaneous things and just not worry about the time. Not try not to be controlled by the time. That's one thing we can do to try to have power over the system that controls us. The same with money. Only use it for what you need it for. Try not to want for anything that they program us to want for. And trust me, they program us to want for everything. Everything. Try to minimize your wants and desires because it's just a form of control. Uh, Knowing the truth gives you power. Okay? Knowing the truth, it it opens your mind to the possibilities of what you can do. And trust me, creation is way more powerful than the system they control us with. Way more powerful. I mean, creation is the creation of all. I mean, we put our faith in the creation of all. That's the most power that you can ever imagine. So yes, finding out these lies that they control us with. It's not devastating. It's enlightening. It's time to learn the truth and better ourselves. And that way we can avoid being manipulated. Well, I'm going to bring this video to an end, and I hope everyone has a good night and take care of yourself. Stay warm because it's getting a little chilly out there. Even in Florida where I'm at. You guys take care of yourself.